welcome back to the Millie Fox Show. This podcast is for the high achieving woman, the one who's always aimed for the stars, and for some reason, life is just not feeling exactly how you want it to feel or how you thought it should feel right now. And that's okay. We all go through those times, but I'm here to walk you through some of the things that you may be experiencing to help bring you home back to yourself, to help make your life feel as good as it looks from the outside. I'm all about the juice, okay? The juicy and the deliciousness. And today's topic is something that I've wanted to talk more about for a long time. It is the grief of aging. And I know you, if you're here, you're probably in your 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe. And we don't talk about this very much. We talk about accepting aging. We talk about whether we should get Botox or not, whether we should age naturally or not. But no one talks about the emotional experience of aging. And I know that I'm not very old. I am 36, will be 37 this year. But at this age, I am seeing the signs that I am no longer 20 something young, spry girly anymore. I mean, I am spry. I can do a freaking headstand, but my body looks very different. My face is looking very different. I'm noticing my neck wrinkles. I am, sprouting the gray hairs. Soon I won't be able to fight it anymore. And I have to decide what I'm going to do about all these things, right? Like, just like you, we have to decide who we want to be as we age. And that might change. I remember when I became a parent, my idea of how I would parent was wildly different. The expectation that I had was wildly different than the reality that I experienced when I finally understood what it meant to be a parent, right? And I think that it's similar when we age, when we start to really feel how it feels to no longer be, in that age bracket that's most desirable, air quotes, desirable anymore. And I have a lot of things to say about this. I have a lot of feelings about it. And maybe you relate to some of them because this is the kind of stuff that we're thinking, but we're not saying, right? So there's the physical signs of aging. And then there's also the comparison of, oh, look what I see this person doing and that person doing. They're my age and I haven't done that. Or even worse, when we're looking at younger women who have done things that we haven't even done yet. Like in my case, I'm seeing these younger women come up on social media and in coaching, online business, and they're just crushing it. And it's very interesting and difficult to avoid comparing yourself to them, right? So there's that part of it where we look at the timeline of aging. And then we also look at our perceived value. I put out a couple of pieces of content lately that got a lot of attention from men, not intentionally. And the comments were so funny about my age. They're like, oh, a menopausal woman, oh, a 50-year-old woman. I'm like, yo, this is rage bait, right? They're trying to just get me to reply, I'm sure. But the comments about, oh, you're not, nobody wants you anymore, you're too old, those kind of things, those never used to happen, right? And even if in your mind you know that these things are not true, society still does perpetuate them. And I'm not 100% sure how we make the shift. Some people might say that we all need to just embrace aging and age naturally in order to make that shift so we can start to revere age and the wisdom that comes with it. But I'm not sure that's going to happen because, these things are available and they make people feel the way they want to feel, right? Any kind of procedures or fillers. I personally have struggled with that. I wanted to age completely naturally. And as the wrinkles set in, especially on my forehead, I I didn't feel like they matched how I felt on the inside. I felt that it was almost unfair that the signs of aging came upon me when they did, because I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot of stress. I've been through a lot of trauma. And in my mind, then they're not natural. They came as a result of things that happened to me that I didn't ask for, and perhaps was not the trajectory that I would have aged if I had just lived in air quotes more normal and relaxed life, right? So I had this internal debate on, should I do it or should I not do it? And the part of me that said don't do it was saying, if you do it, that's shameful, because you clearly can't love yourself the way you are if you get Botox, right? And this debate, like, it's a slippery slope. We could say the same thing about makeup. We could say the same thing about doing your hair. We could say the same thing about how you dress. If you can't just dress in rags and live your life the way you woke up, then maybe you don't love yourself. If you can't love yourself like that, then, maybe you need to look at your self-love. But what it really comes down to, I think, is your values, is how you feel about the whole thing. Are you feeling pressured to get the procedures, or are you feeling pressured to not get the procedures? Are you feeling like you have to hide your age so that you can still, fit in with the younger crowd and feel cool and valuable? It's really comes down to questions that you need to ask yourself. And I think this is why the process that I use and that I've come up with, some of you may know it as Manifest OS. Some of you may have heard me call it the self-led method. It's the same thing. It's the 5 questions of coming home to yourself. It's the 5-question self-leadership framework of figuring out who you are. Who are you beyond your looks? I think about this sometime when I think about what would happen. Who would I be if I had some sort of devastating accident where I was, completely disfigured, or if I got an illness where I became completely disfigured, if God forbid, my face was injured, or I had to have a surgery that disfigured me. Who would I identify as? Where would I ground my identity if that were to happen? And it scares me thinking about those kind of things. I mean, naturally, it probably should, but it brings up how attached I am to my appearance as part of my identity. And as we age, I think we need to shift the relationship that we have with ourselves and the relationship we have with our appearance to evolve with our identity, right? So in the question of who am I, that's the first question of the method. Who am I? What do I want? What's getting in the way? What do I need to do? And what do I do if I get off track? Those are the questions of the method. We go through and we ask, who am I at these 3 different levels? At my source level, which is the soul level, at my human level, and at my vortex level. The vortex level is your next level self. So maybe the question is, who is my 60-year-old version of me? What message does she have for me about aging? What advice does she have for me about how I can navigate this part of my life? Because there is major grief, right? Like, it's letting go of your youth, letting go of this time when you were, you know, just, I don't know what words to use without feeling like I'm saying it wrong. Fresh, new, shiny. Nothing had been worn down yet. There was no cracks. And then in the same vein, there's so many things that we have that we love so much that are so worn that we don't even know, like we don't even see the imperfections in them that have come over time because we still just remember it for how it was. But letting go of that chapter of your life and moving into a new middle or later chapter requires saying goodbye to some aspects of who we once were. And I think it's okay to sit with that and to feel some sadness, you know, of I'm not who I once was and I can't get it back. I love the reels that say, you can either look old or you can look weird. You can't look young. You've already done that. And I don't necessarily think that weird is the right word to use, but you can look old or you can look done. Old and done. Because everyone can always tell, right? Everyone can tell when someone's had work done. And I don't really know for myself how I want to do that. At this point, really am not ready for gray hair. I do not want. I remember when my mom let her hair grow out completely gray and white. I was just so shocked, like taken back. I remember her dyeing her hair constantly in her late 30s and 40s and trying to keep up with that. Um, and I think at this age, she already had a lot more gray than I do, but she let it go. And I remember just like feeling shocked to see her when I hadn't seen her in a while. It was a couple of years actually, and then I saw her because we had gone no contact, and I was like my breath was taken away because she looked so much older. She also was experiencing health issues that caused her to look older, and she had just aged significantly. She'd also lost a lot of weight, and like it was shocking for me. And I'm not ready for that transformation. I'm not ready to, jump into the crone era. I don't think it happens that quickly, but there's an exception for my mom. Um, but I just love seeing vibrant older women. I'm going to say that too. I love it. I want to be that. I don't want to be an older woman that is trying her best to disguise her age. I just want to age the way that I see myself, if that makes any sense. I never used to be afraid of aging. I'm not afraid of, I was never afraid of turning 30 or 35. 40 is coming up, and that feels like it came up really fast. And I mean, I know it's still 3.5 years away for me, but I'm witnessing a lot of people I know turn 40. And so it's feeling a lot closer. It used to feel 3 years ago, it felt really far away. Starting to feel a lot closer. And, seeing pictures of myself in certain lighting and this and that. And I just go, whoa, hey, who's that woman? And I don't know, this podcast is a bit of a rant, a bit of a ramble, a bit of a yap. But I just hope that you feel like you're talking to a girlfriend, you're listening to a girlfriend who feels the same way as you do, who's deciding who she wants to be, not letting the pressure of what the world says you should or shouldn't do dictate what you do as you age, and remembering what you really want, remembering what your values are, looking at the limiting beliefs that are coming up. You know, for myself, in the relationship that I'm in now, I've become so much more body conscious, not because my partner has made me that way, but because I've become okay, going into the dating world at the age of 33, I think I was 32, 33, with two kids. I became so much more conscious of my age, and, you know, it was a crazy realization that after a certain age and with children, that basically in the dating world, the men, quote unquote, kind of hold the cards or have the power, because of the biology of women, and if you want kids and if they want kids and all of those things, especially if you are a single mom, which was very, very interesting realization for me coming in, going, you know, I always knew that I wouldn't have much trouble with attracting a guy, but then having that realization that, like, oh, it's only for one reason. um and navigating all of these different pieces of, oh, I'm less valuable because I have kids. Oh, I'm less valuable because I'm over 30. Oh, I'm less valuable because of this reason, that reason. And really coming back to, that's a lie. Really coming back to, where do I see my value? I think if more women can come back to those questions again and again and again, who am I? What would my source self say to me? What would my vortex self say to me? What do I want? What do I value? What would make me feel good about this transition in life stage that I'm currently in? You know, what makes me feel vibrant? And it's not just about the way you look, it's about the way you take care of yourself. It's about the way you show up. It's about the activities that you do. It's about where you find joy and how much of it you allow yourself to experience. It's about how much magic you find in the day to day. It's about how much you hold sacred. And it's about your relationship with sensuality. That is something new that I've navigated in this chapter of my life as well. Coming into this new relationship where I didn't have that in the past. I didn't have a connection to my own sensuality that I really was able to express with somebody else. And that is another piece that keeps you really connected to who you are and who you want to be. So hopefully somewhere in this wandering, meandering yap and rant, you found some pieces of value. I recently taught a masterclass called the Identity and Capacity Expansion Masterclass, and I still have the replay for that available. I think it would be a great next step for you to listen to after this conversation, to continue on the pathway of, the question, who am I? What do I want? And what's getting in the way of me being that woman? It's getting in the way of me showing up the way that I want to show up. So I'll put that link in the show notes for the masterclass replay. And if you like this episode, if you found it valuable, please go ahead and subscribe. If you're on Apple, if you're on Spotify, I would be just absolutely grateful and mind blown if you left me a review. I think it would be incredible. Leave a review. If you want the messages to help and get out to other women, leaving a review is massive on these platforms. So I'd really appreciate that. And just stay tuned for the next episode. We launch every single Friday. Thank you so much for being here and sending you a ton of love.